Hi there! With the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the sequel to 2020's Final Fantasy VII Remake, itself a sequel to 1997's Final Fantasy VII, I thought it would be fun to go over my first impressions of the new soundtrack. I'm currently deep in the weeds researching for a likely multi-part music analysis series on Final Fantasy VII Remake, similar in style to my 3-part Final Fantasy XVI series. However, Remake is a much bigger beast, musically speaking, than 16, so I have a ways to go before these videos will be ready. In the meantime, I thought a more timely, off-the-cuff first impressions and initial analyses of the opening of the Rebirth soundtrack would be an easy way to fill some of that void. As of this recording, the official soundtrack isn't out for another month or so the speculation and guesswork is one of my favorite parts about making a spreadsheet. It's a game within a game for me, my own Queen's blood, if you will. Much to my chagrin, Rebirth's opening credits, just like Remake's, only credit Masashi Hamauzu and Mitsuto Suzuki as the sole composers, along with Uematsu obviously, which was extremely disingenuous back in Remake, and likely just as much so now. Remake had a small army's worth of phenomenal composers and arrangers, to the point where if you close your eyes and think about your favorite tracks from Remake, there is a statistically large chance that you're thinking of something arranged and co-composed by Shotaro Shima, Yoshinori Nakamura, or Tadayoshi Makino, to name just a few. This is all to say, since Square is notoriously elusive about this kind of stuff, I don't actually know who worked on Rebirth. So my guesses could be way off, but hey, being wrong is half the fun. The Rebirth soundtrack, just like Remake's, is shaping up to be positively gargantuan. My goal with this video is really just to cover the music from the opening parts of this game, the interlude as they call it, the brief Zack chunk before Cloud starts recalling his, I am sure, 100% accurate memory of what happened in Nibelheim back in the day. So let's jump in. Right off the bat, on the main menu you are greeted with an arrangement of the prelude. Specifically, it is Yoshitaka Suzuki's arrangement from Remake's title screen. I was initially caught off guard hearing a reused Remake track right off the bat, but I think considering how much the main menu design toes the line set by Remake, it makes sense for the music to also follow suit tonally. Selecting The Story So Far gives you a brief recap of the events of Remake, which uses 3 tracks from Remake: Midgar, City of Mako, A Broken Planet, and 7 Seconds Till the End. A more interesting menu option, however, is the Options menu, where you can go in and turn the sound effects and voices all the way down, which is exactly what I'm doing now with the footage you are seeing and hearing. To my surprise, once I clicked on New Game, I was greeted with the sound of Cloud's hearty Daytona loudly breaking through the glass of Shinra HQ. Unfortunately, it seems you can't actually control the sound effect volume for pre-rendered cutscenes, since the sound effects are baked into the video. We'll have to make do and really squint our ears. You ready? Through the crashing glass we make out another Remake track. This time it's Yasunori Nishiki's manic arrangement of One Winged Angel, presciently called One Winged Angel Rebirth. Specifically, it's the climax of the last 40 seconds or so of the track. If Square hadn't already announced an 8-disc Rebirth soundtrack coming out soon, I would be beginning to worry that Rebirth was mostly going to be reusing Remake's comically large, likely very expensive to produce original soundtrack, since this is the 5th piece of music I've heard since booting up the game and it's all been from Remake. I am now 10 hours into Rebirth and I can safely say that I was scared for nothing. Although technically speaking, the opening bassoon, I think it's a bassoon, and strings trill are a new intro for this Rebirth version of One Winged Angel, so it's not all old. After this quasi-recap of the last 2 chapters of Remake, we are finally introduced to our first piece of original Rebirth music. Low sustained strings with the occasional sparse piano phrase are somewhat hard to parse with the competing sound effects of the unsurprisingly pre-rendered, hyper-detailed scene of the aftermath of Midgar's decimation by the Whispers and Sephiroth. Sorry, I mean by Avalanche and Wutai, obviously. If there is a recurring or new melody being introduced here, I can't make it out. footage of the tornadoes is paired with some brief, more clearly defined musical ideas, though again, nothing really stands out to me as the introduction of a new leitmotif. The first moment that really stood out to me is the incredible, suspenseful, kind of James Bondian guitar chord that rings out over the reveal of the ruins of Shinra HQ. I love this, and it immediately brings to mind this amazing moment from Remake's opening track, Midgar City of Mako. The Remake track uses more of a distorted synth rather than the electric guitar, but I think the connection is fairly deliberate. Midgar City of Mako was arranged by Shotaro Shima and Tsutomu Narita, and the similarities between both tracks might hint at the identities of the new track's composers. From there, the similarities only become more apparent. In both Remake and Rebirth's openings, the cameras slowly descend from Midgar's upper plate to the world below as violins begin holding a long E, and the classic Lifestream melody that opens Final Fantasy VII begins to play. As Cloud and Zack approach Midgar, there is a playful Howard Shore-esque whimsy to the strings arrangement. After a short swell, we get a drop-dead gorgeous introduction to the Final Fantasy VII main theme. The original world map performance of the Final Fantasy VII main theme is dripping with melancholy, and series composer Nobuo Uematsu did incredible work twisting it throughout FF7 to match the game's smorgasbords of tones and moods, be it mysterious in Under the Rotting Pizza, foreboding in On That Day 5 Years Ago, heroic in Steel the Tiny Bronco, melancholic in Words Drowned by Fireworks, but I don't know if I've ever heard the theme used to bring out that sense of improbable victory, quite like how it is used right here. It's definitely my first goosebumps moment in Rebirth. That sense of victory is very short-lived. As the melody continues, it introduces a lot of ambiguity, followed then by a lonely cello repeating the main melody one more time. This is a strange, new, unknown journey. The second new piece of Rebirth music comes in when Zack reaches the Sector 5 slums. A low, ominous chord plays out with a sparse, unknown piano line that comes in and out. Ostinato strings eventually kick in as the cellos and bass play a three-note ascending melody that is somewhat evocative of a part of Genova's theme. This is likely a stretch, but Remake did make use of this piecemeal part of the Jenova theme as well from time to time. So, maybe? The piece mostly stays in this moody register and doesn't really go anywhere. It seems mostly there to suit the character's emotions and sense of dread, but not much else. After Zack leaves Cloud with Kyrie, he starts running away from Midgar, chasing after Aerith's helicopter. We retain the foreboding B-flat minor strings from before, but introduce more rhythmic layers in the percussion and trills. It takes all of 10 seconds of this new passage to realize that this is, without a shadow of a doubt, a Masashi Hamauzu composition and arrangement. It has all of his tells: the rhythmic marching strings, the flourishes of the lead violin, the regal, militaristic marching band's accents, the delicate flute melodies. It's all there. All that's missing is that dissonant, syncopated lead piano peppering the track. You love to hear it. The inhale-exhale-like melody of the female choir that comes in is beautiful and really helps differentiate the piece from what is otherwise a strong but safe Hamauzu arrangement. There's also a violin that comes out with a lead line that sounds a lot like Remake's Jesse's theme, also written by Hamauzu. I have no sense of whether or not this is totally a coincidence or not. Next, the rhythmic sections are taken out and replaced by brass and slower strings. All told, it's a short loop lasting only about a minute and a half, but the track has a few more tricks up its sleeve. Once you reach the crash site, the track dynamically fades in a new battle variant, with a stripped-down string section, fewer brass, vocal chants, the occasional snare and timpani hit, and a new trumpet lead melody. Sounds good. I'll have to replay this sequence several more times to really work out the timing, but it seems that once the battle finishes, a sparser, more suspenseful arrangement fades in to match the action of Zack taking out the second helicopter. As the camera pans down for the next round of combat, we keep this new tension-filled percussive arrangement while also adding that highly dissonant, syncopated piano section that I was missing from before. As the battle comes to an end, the track adapts once more as Zack reaches Aerith. There are a few notable melodies in this track, but it's too early to say whether these will be recurring or just one-off. Alright, we have one last very short piece of music to cover. Here we have the start of Aerith's theme, although we open on a minor chord instead of a major one, imbuing this arrangement with even more sadness than usual. It's a bit too maudlin for my taste, but that's alright. The piano development is quite nice. We get a bit of that theme's chorus, so to speak, but it ends on an unresolved chord, along with the Final Fantasy prelude melody laced into the mix. Interesting. And that's it for all the music in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's interlude. Within the first 10 minutes or so of the game, it seems clear we are in very good hands for the adventure ahead of us. And in particular, the amount of dynamic layers at work during the one segment where you briefly play as Zack was truly impressive. This really bodes well for Rebirth. I am very excited. I'm still working on my remake spreadsheet using basically the same methodology I just walked you through. I don't have a timeline as to when the first one of those videos will go up, but likely a month or two away. If there is enough interest in this more casual, loosey-goose music analysis of Rebirth as I play through it, I could put the remake videos on the back burner and work on these instead. I'll tell you right now, there are some very cool tracks in Chapter 1. I was not expecting the banjo. So let me know if this was cool, and if so, I'll think about continuing on with this. Otherwise, look forward to remake vids eventually. Bye!